Hey there, my name is Kelly Dale with Off the Beaded Path. Today I'm going to show you a new earring that I've come up with to go with my cobblestone bracelet and the cobblestone earrings. Basically, when I tried to come up with a new component for either like a necklace or a bracelet to go with the cobblestone set. And when I did, I actually ended up coming up with two new earrings. So today is going to be the first of those two earrings. I'm calling this earring the tile by tile earrings because it goes a lot like the cobblestone set as we put it together. So basically what you're going to need for this project is you are going to need a lot just like your cobblestone. You're going to need 8 4mm round beads. You're going to need some 15s and 11s, 8 tile beads, 8 super duo beads, 2 10mm round beads, 2 11 by 8mm drops is I think the size 10 or 11 by 8s. Then you're going to need a set of ear hooks, needle. I'm using a size 12 needle, and each earring is going to take 1 3/4 yards of, you can use a 6-pound fire line, you can use 1G thread, you can use Hana thread, whatever you want. But like I said, it's going to take about 1 3/4 yards for each earring. So go ahead and get your bead mat and area set up and we'll get started. So here's the earring that I'm going to be showing you how to make today. This is the gold and copper and purple version. And then here is another version using some turquoise, amethyst, and purple light as the beads. If you'll flip it over, you can see that there's a lot of structure to this earring to be able to hold it stiff and hold our bead into place. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing we're going to be doing actually is building our frame for this earring, and it starts a lot like the cobblestone set. I've got a needle threaded with almost 2 yards of my 1G that I'm using today. I'm using the beige color, and you start out by picking up 115, 1 duo, 115, and 1 tile 4 times. So a 15, a duo, a 15, and a tile. It does not matter which hole in the tile bead or the super duo bead that you go through, because they are going to be exactly where you need it to be. So there's no need to worry about which hole to go through on this step. So once you get this done, and you can see I've already finished one earring, so that way I had exactly the materials laid out that I would need for the second earring. But it works really good to do it that way anyway, so you really don't have to think about it as you do it. You can just quickly stitch this together. Now, the one difference that will be from the cobblestone bracelet to these earrings, these tile by tile earrings, is that in the cobblestone earrings, and even the cobblestone bracelet, your thread was doubled. But in the cobblestone earrings, the original ones that I did, you had to go back through each row to reinforce it. Well, you can't do that with this earring, because if you do that, what's going to happen is you're going to end up with your needle not being able to get through your size 15 seed beads, because we're going to be going through these beads several times. So you really want to be careful of that. And when you make this knot right here where I just tied it into a circle, be careful not to get your size 15 seed bead caught up inside that knot. Now right next to the knot, I'm going to go through the 15 and the super duo. Now I'm going to go through the holes that I've already been through to do this step. I'm going to step up through this super duo by going through the top hole in the opposite direction. And that steps me up for my next row. Now I'm going to pick up a 15, and I'm going to go through the open hole of the next tile. And what this will start to do is this will start to pull this into a 3-dimensional shape. Thread on 115 and go through the open hole of the next duo. And you're just going to pick up 115 and go through the open hole of your next shape bead all the way around. And you want to pull it about the same consistency as what you've got the first row tied together with. If not, it's going to be a little off. So you want to try and keep the same consistency. And once you get back around to the front, if you want to, you can go ahead and cut that tail thread off so you don't have to worry about it and it won't be in your way. If it worries you just cutting that thread, you can definitely take your needle and attach it to the tail thread and stitch it through a few beads. It's completely up to you. But what I'm going to do is once I get this last 15 added, I'm going to go through the super duo like I should to add the last bead. But then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go through the first 15 that I added in the round, which is the very next 15. What this is going to do is this is going to get me into position now to start the next round. So as you can see, I have a three-dimensional shape. It's still squishy right now, so you don't have to worry about anything about that. But I am going to go ahead and I'm going to get rid of that little tail so I don't have to worry about it. At this point, I'm going to pick up a 15, an 11, a 4mm round, an 11, and a 15. So looking at it the way we are right now, my thread is coming out of a 15 on the right side. So I'm going to take my needle, I'm going to skip the tile bead, and I'm going to go through the 15, the duo, and the next 15 on the right side. So I'm going to stay adding beads on this right side all the way around. It was a 15, an 11, a 4mm round, an 11, and a 15. Skip the tile, go through the 15, the duo, and the 15 on this right side. And not reinforcing it helps you to be able to get through these beads a little bit easier also. You'll be adding 4 total beads as far as your 4mm rounds around the edge. Now once I add this last set, so I'm skipping the tile, going through the 15, the duo, and the 15, just like I've been doing all the way around the piece. But what I'm going to do is now that I have that 4th bead added, is I'm going to step up by continuing to go through the 15, the 11, and the 4mm round. That's the first set that I put on. Because now we're actually going to be completing the little X shapes, and this is how it'll step us up to do that. So you're coming out of the 4mm round, you'll want to pick up an 11 and a 15, and you will go to the 15, duo, and 15 on the left side, and you will go through those 3 beads and pull it. Now it will be a 15 and an 11. So you're picking it up the opposite way because we want to mirror the X shapes. So I have my 15 and my 11, and I'm going to go through the 4mm round. Now it is an 11 and a 15. And I'm going to go through the 15, the duo, and the 15 here on this left side. Now a 15 and an 11. Go through the 4mm round bead. Now an 11 and a 15. Go through the 15, the duo, and the 15 on this left side. And you've got just a few more. Let's see, we've got one more full one left to do. So it's a 15 and an 11, and we're going to go through the 4mm round, an 11 and a 15, and go through the 15 duo and 15 on that left side. And now one more 15 and 11, and go through that 4mm round. This is the first 4mm round that you started this with on this side. So now, if you look at it all the way around, pulling it tightly, you have your little X shapes that you need. Now, it doesn't matter if you stitch the beads on this side or the beads on this side, but whichever one you stitch to is going to be the bottom, or what we're going to designate as the bottom of your piece. So where I'm coming out at the 4mm round, I'm just going to continue through the 11 and the 2 15s right after it. This is the part where we're actually going to be building the back to hold our bead in place and to give this some structure. So you'll pick up 5 15s, skip the super duo, and go through the 15, the duo, or the 15, the tile, and the 15. Now here's the thing, and I know some of you are going to try and do this. You're going to try and go through all 3 beads at one time. I'm not saying that can't be done, because it can be done. But you want to be very careful, because if you try to go through all 3 beads at one time, you might end up busting one of those 15s. And if you bust one of those 15s, you can't really go back and just add it back in. Believe me, I've tried it. So you pick up 5 15s, skip the duo, and go through the 15, the tile, and the 15. And you're going to do that 2 more times. So you'll have 4 total, what I call arches or arcs here with these little peacoat things. So we're putting on a second one, and then you want 2 more. Once you've added the 4th little arch or arc, you'll continue through the tile, the 15, and then through 3 of the 15s. I'm going to see if I can get it to zoom in, or there you go. 3 of the 15s that you added in that first little arc. And at this point, it's still a little, it's getting a little stiffness to it, but it's still just a little squishy. Pick up 3 15s and take your needle, and you're going to go through the middle bead of the next set of 5, or that little point bead of your arc. And when you do that, right now, it's not going to pull super tight, and that's okay, because we'll make it here in just a minute. So 3 15s, go through the middle bead, or that point bead of your next little arc there. 3 15s, go through the middle bead, and stab yourself with your needle just like I did. It's required at this point. And then 3 more 11s, and you go through that middle bead of the first little arc that you added. Now when you pull tight, it still don't look like it's going to fit, but I promise you it will. Listen to me, I've done this a time or two. Now go through all these beads again. So you go through the 3 and the point bead all the way around, and each time you go around, you want to pull it tight. You're not going to hurt it, and you're actually going to give it more structure if you keep it pulled nice and tight together. So each time you go through 3 and then that point bead, go ahead and pull it. So now you can see I have a nice tight circle here along the back. Now if you're using my Yuki 15s, you might have to play with it, because you might have to add 4 15s instead of 3 15s, because all I've used is Toho's, and 3 have worked out perfectly. But like I said, if you're using my Yuki, you might have to bump up to 4. So now I'm coming out of the middle bead of, it doesn't matter which arc you come out of, but you want to come out of that middle bead. Now, you want to come out of a 15 on the front that is right before a duo. So from where I'm coming out, I'm going to go ahead and go through the 2 15s that are left on that little arc of beads. Then I'm going to go through 2 15s and the 11. Now again, you may not be able to go through all 3 beads at one time. You might have to go through 1 or 2 at a time. Then I'll go through the 4mm round, and at this point I'm going to flip it over so that I'm looking at the front. And then I'm going to continue through the 11 and 2 15s on the front side. And you are going to add your arcs at each of the 4 corners of the tiles, okay? So again, that was, we picked up 5 15s, skip the duo, and go through the 15, the tile, and the 15. And this side gets a little harder because you're really having to wiggle your way through because the structure is a lot better now on this front side. So go ahead and do your 3 other arcs and then step up through the first 3 15s of a set of 5 to just like we did on the back side. Okay, so I have the back completed at this point, and I have my arcs completed on the front, and I have stepped up through the first 3 15s of my set of 5. Now you're ready to add your 10mm round. So you'll pick up your 10mm round, and I need to tell you too, this project works really, really great and is highly suggested for an opaque colored bead. I think this is satin copper is what this is called, and this is a satin light purple for this one. And the reason being is because the hole in your bead is not straight as far as the way it lays on the earring. So like this one, the hole is this direction here. Some of them you can't see bad, but others you can. Like this one here, the hole is this direction. So that's one thing that you kind of have to be aware of. You can use a pearl, you can use anything. As long as it's more opaque, you'll be all right. My thread is coming out to the left of this arc. So I'm going to come directly opposite here, and I'm going to go through that bead going from left to right. I'm just going through the center bead of the arc, and I'm going to pull. So it'll pull it down. Go back down through the 10mm bead again. Hold it in place and pull the thread nice and tight. And then if you'll remember, my thread was just exiting out to the left. So I'm going to go through this middle arc bead from right to left so that it puts a thread on each side of the 15 at the top. And then once I go through this one, it will put a thread on each side at the bottom. You'll pick up 6 15s. Take your needle and go through the middle bead of the next arc. 6 15s. And go through the middle bead of the next one, which is going to be where it's connected to the 10mm round. And we're going to do this 2 more times, picking up 6, going through the middle bead of the next little arch there, and then 6, and go through the bead that I started with, which is going to be this middle one at the bottom. Pull that tight. And now that should surround your 10mm. At this point, you have a couple of options. I do it one way in the pattern, which is fine, and I'm going to show you another way. with the pattern, what I did is I went ahead and added my crystal embellishments along the edges, and then I tell you to reinforce this round of beads one more time. But I'm going to go ahead at this point and tell you, go ahead and reinforce this round of beads one more time before you add your crystals. This way, what this will do is this will allow you to be able to have the beads real close together as you're working, and you won't have to worry about seeing a lot of extra thread. But again, I will caution you, if you are using Miyuki seed beads, you may have to alter this pattern a little bit, or how many beads you pick up, so that it won't mess the pattern up. So once I've gone all the way around, you'll want to exit out of the 4th bead of a set of 6. So what that means is I have 6 beads from here to here. So I want to go through 4 of those. So 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to pull that through. This is where your 3 millimeters are going to come into play. So I'm going to pick up a 15, a 3 millimeter, and a 15. My thread is coming out to the left, so I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go through the 4 millimeter round going from left to right. And I'm going to pull my needle out. So when I pull it tight, that will give me a crystal here. And this is an excellent time to re-show you how to thread a needle. Commercial break. Needle thread. Okay, so what I do is I pinch the thread right here between my fingers, and I lay the hole of my needle right down over that thread so that it has nowhere to go. Now, if it frays a little bit like this for you, definitely go ahead and trim off that end. I had somebody email me this week and tell me that they didn't know how to thread a needle, so this is how I do it. And always, 100% of the time, this works for me, except for when I'm on video right now with a camera behind me trying to show you how to do it. Then it doesn't work. But that goes for par. Okay, so now I have the needle threaded back, and I have it all around my ring. Oh my goodness, this is bad. Okay, here we go, leaving the blooper in. So pick up a 15, a 3 millimeter, and a 15. My thread is coming out of the 4 millimeter round to the right. So I'm going to come up here to the top, and I'm going to go through those last 2 15s that I went through. So I went through 4, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to go back through the last 2. So I'm going to go through beads 3 and 4, and I'm going to pull that thread. So what happens is that gives me a bead on each side of the 4 millimeter round where they're connected with 2 beads. Now I'm going to continue through 7 beads. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So again, I'm coming out of 4 beads of my set of 6. Pick up a 15, a 3 millimeter, and a 15. My thread is coming out to the left, so I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go through that 4 millimeter round going from left to right. Now, pick up a 15, a 3 millimeter, and a 15. My thread is coming out to the right, so I'm going to go through those last 2 15s that I was coming out of here at the top, and I'm going to go through those from right to left so that it will connect those 3 millimeters to the 4. And you will continue to add 2 here and 2 here so that you have them at each point. I've got my crystals added on all 4 points. And these were the last 2 that I added, and I just continued on to where I was coming out of the 2 connector 15s here. Now I'm going to use these beads to stitch through so that I can come out of the 4 millimeter round right above it. So I'm going to do the teardrop shape first in my earring. So I'm going to pick up 5 15s. The teardrop, and you want to thread it from the skinny end to the bigger end, and then 1 11 0. you are going to skip the 11-0 and go back through the teardrop and 115 right above it. So it's going to be that fifth 15 that you picked up. And I'm going to hold that in place, and I'm going to pull the thread straight the way it's coming out of the bead. That'll help me tighten it up. And now pick up 4 15s. The thread is originally coming out of the right side of that 4mm round. So I'm going to take my needle and I'm going to go through that bead from left to right so that it will make the little V shape that I need to dangle the teardrop from. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stitch through this one more time to reinforce it, and then I'm going to stitch back up and come back up through so that I'm coming out of the 4mm round opposite where I have just added this teardrop. So I've got the needle stitched to the top here where it's coming out of the 4mm opposite where I added the teardrop. Now we're going to make the little earring bell. So to do that, I'm going to pick up 6 15s. My thread is currently coming out of the right side of that 4mm. So I'm going to come through that bead from left to right as to make a circle. Go through 4 of the beads that you just added. And put my finger on there just to keep it tight as I work. Now you want to pick up 6 more 15s. And just like we did with these beads here, our connector beads, we're going to go back through the last 2 beads that you're coming out of so that it makes a circle. So my thread is coming out to the left, so I'm going to come around and I'm going to go through those 2 beads, which are my middle beads of the set of 6, going from right to left. And that's going to give me another little loop. Now go ahead and go through those 6 beads again to reinforce that loop. And then go through the 2 beads that you were coming out of one more time. Now at this point, if you hang the earring just like this, the 10mm round and the drop tend to make it want to hang like this rather than perfectly straight. So I'm going to show you how we fix that. Coming out where you are now, pick up 2 15s and take your needle and go through the 15, the 3mm, and the 15 that's to your left. And pull that tight. And what that does is that's going to help center that between the 4mm round and where my 15s are at. Now I'm going to go through the 2 connector 15s and then up through the 15, the 3mm, and the 15. Now pick up 2 15s and go through the 2 15s you were exiting when you added these here. So it's those middle 2 15s. And at this point, it's going to be tight to get back through that bead again, but you can do it. So that gives me a perfectly now centered earring bell or loop for my piece. And at this point, all you'll need to do is just to tie the thread into some really good half-hitch knots. Remember, you want the really good knots, not the really bad knots. So I'm going to put just a couple in here. And then I'm going to stitch through a few beads and trim this thread. And at that point, all you'll have to do is take your pliers, open your ear hook, attach it to the top loop that you made with your little circle of 6 15s, and then close that loop so that you now have your finished tile by tile earring. So let me add it to my other one here. The really great thing I like about this pair of earrings is it's a great way to use up extra beads that you may have, because you only use so many of each size. So it's really, really great. So this is the copper pair that I showed you today. Then the turquoise and purple. And then I'll have one more color sample that we'll have available on our website, which will be the black and gray. All three of these samples match the cobblestone bracelets that we did a few weeks ago. I hope you enjoyed learning how to make the tile by tile earrings. We do have the written pattern and 3 color kits available on our website, which is off the beadedpathbeadstore.com. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Bye-bye.